That's one of my favorite guys. I think that's a golden retriever, don't you? It's actually a teddy bear that's surfing. I just like it. So I leave it right there to look at. It's my art for the summer on my easel. I just got this approved as an accessory living unit. I had been living large up here for several years, and the county thought I was just a dry, unimproved steel building. Yeah, I came out of the closet. I did. I really did. And now they know. And I'm going to be okay. Being an outlaw, I guess I'm saying, weighed on me. I didn't like it so much. As an older man, as a younger man, I didn't care. But as an older man, I just don't want any hassles in my life. I want to just settle back into retirement and feel okay about everything. That's what I want. I need a selfie stick. So I'm just thinking how I can teach better this next year. Maybe have a discussion on what kind of students I see out there. What category. As a scientist, you have to start to classify. So what do I do to you? I classify you. I put you into a group now. Is that like giving you a label? Yeah. But, and if you don't like your label, say, nah, I don't want to be like that. I want to be like this. So I got to be clever in these categories. I think I have 5 categories. Handful. And they ought to be, there's some of you in here that just want to be a sponge and absorb everything I say and even how I think, just to get a fuller picture of life. I mean, you know, your family knows a lot. I mean, there's smart people in your family, but they go to help for other people when it's something they don't know how to do, and it's a community of different people working together that really makes our lives wonderful. That is what does it. It's the engine behind all our prosperity, is our ability to work together. And you know, if that falls down and we end up fighting each other, that's bad. And there are a lot of people that fall prey to that. I mean, Ireland, the ancestors of many of us, you know, squabbled for years, decades. Probably there are people there still squabbling about Christians, denominations, whether it's a Protestant or Catholic. They hold their grievances in such high esteem and make them one of the top things, especially when it has to do with religion. People just get to believe in what they believe, and they're certain it's so, and anybody that isn't like that then is wrong. Come on now. Evangelizing is a good thing to a receptive audience, but I mean, just to go out, and yeah, you got to test waters and then back off. So I mean, if you want to be an evangelist that goes after everybody, but be gentle, because some people don't want to hear it. I mean, and I don't blame them. Pushing values on your beliefs on somebody else is not a good thing, I think. As a scientist, you believe what you want to believe. I mean, but if you want real evidence, you can't really find it. I mean, you can infer And the inference is that we have a great and wonderful God out there. Somebody created all this, and it's magnificent, isn't it? So, I mean, that's all I need to say or think in my head to say, yeah, I believe there's a creator. I prefer to believe there is a creator that made all this wonderfulness happen. Being that we don't understand life and how it got started, how matter became animated. We don't. So let's give it up to God until we find something else. That's what I'm doing. That's the current theory, is that there is a God and that He loves us. Wouldn't have put us in a situation like this if He didn't. But now, we got to be careful of ourselves. We think we get to fighting over junk, let me just put it clearly, over make-believe. Because that's what religion is. I mean, I like religion in that it lets people come together of like mind in a church and build on that like-mindedness. I do. That's all I say, no but. Because I was starting to say negative one direction or the other, and I don't want to, not just to be political, but I think you can only push the unknown at somebody so hard. And there is a lot of unknown in science. And the big question for all of us should be, what the heck are we doing here? What are we doing here? How'd we get here? Each one of us individually, are you kidding me? 2 cells, not even cells, half cells joined to create you. You got 70 trillion chances based on the DNA of this complex organism of being you. That's before you even consider crossover. I mean, see, that little piece of knowledge is what you get if you are a high school biology teacher that's got an interest in life, kind of a philosopher, and that stat just jumps out at me. 70 trillion chances of being you. There's never been anybody like you before. There'll never be anybody like you again. The other part of science I like to think about is how long we've been around and how that has affected our animal base instincts. We got this cerebral cortex that lets us go way out in many different directions and be creative and imaginative. But we got underneath all that, we got a animal brain that we should not ignore. I mean, what are we supposed to be acting like in order to keep our sanity? Because I think that's the way people get nuts, why the chemical imbalance makes them nuts. But when they're living against their nature, then aberrant behaviors start to appear. And one of the things I know is when we feel crowded, we get aggressive. When you're crowded, you get aggressive. All of us do. the whole class of animal we belong to gets aggressive, even mice. So that is one example of our animal instincts of why should we ever get ourselves in crowded situations only to see somebody. It is exciting, and mosh pits are interesting. I had you going, didn't I? That is a group of students. They're not in it for the knowledge. They just want the grade. Just give me the grade. I'm going to college. I don't care about this knowledge thing. What's important to me is an A. And I don't want to know it. I'm not going to know it. I'm just going to do the work to get an A, because in your class you do it fair, and the amount of work you do gets you the A. Hope they look at the videos and remind themselves of what they learned, because they do that. They're a good little review. And a look back at you. Good little review. And a look back at you. Good little review. And a look back at you. Okay. Categories of kids that I teach. Definitely sponge. Definitely grader. I'm going to call them a grader, because they kind of grate on my nerves, and they're after the grade. They're graders. All right? Hate school. Don't want to be there. Yeah, so there's 3. But I got to have a couple other intermediaries in that. All right, like modifications. To have good classification, you got to have more. I'm saying, I make up the system, so see ya. So I did some thinking about 5 categories and just came up with it, philosophizing that one day. But the 5 categories ought to be: I like the sponge, the person that just soaks up the knowledge because they're interested in all that you do personally and your subject matter. And then you got the graders, but let's break graders into 2 categories. One, self-graders. They've got an objective, going to college. And parent graders, ones that are doing it only because their parents are pushing them, and the parents think it's important, and so the kid complies. Not totally into it, but is trying. And then the 4th category is other directed drifters. Other directed drifters, they got a lot of energy. They're doing good stuff, but they're not into what you're doing, and they kind of drift in and out, paying attention or not paying attention because they're not into it. And then the final category would be, of 5, would be haters. And we don't have a lot of those, but we do have those that just hate being there. They just don't like it, and they hardly put up with it. So 5 categories, that's what I'm saying. We'll talk about it, just so I can keep track of who I'm teaching. Who are you? Who are you? Spin, say it.
Silent alpha E makes reading fun for me.